Thank you very much, Mayor Cleveland. Mr. Lumber does have a copy of the motion, so if I can bring that up onto the screen, I'll give folks a few moments, and then, Mayor Cleveland, if there's a second, I'd like 2 moments just to speak to it.
Seconded by Councillor Durham.
But over the last 2 months, I have taken the consultation and conversations and research to heart. I understand that council has several options. We could deny the rezoning and put it up for sale and let the developer do the zoning. We can approve the zoning and pause for community consultation. We can pause selling it altogether. We can refer to the Parks Master Plan, or we can defer until the asset management plan is understood and cost recovery needs is clearly communicated, as well as thorough community consultation is landed on. Recognizing that this file has been underway for several years, and recognizing that the community correspondence to date has touched on rezoning, as well as a future discussion in the due process that council would have to follow around declaring 117 Durham surplus lands, I personally have landed on the option to defer until we can have some more. There's so many moving parts. We have a task force, we have asset management plan, we have the Parks Master Plan. Members of the community have clearly stated that, and there's an economic case around this too. Council purchased this land, and we have an agreement with the school board, and there's a lot of moving pieces. But clearly all these pieces, as one delegator said, the story hasn't been fully put together and fully published in a sequence. Several chapters in this book, if I can use that analogy. So this is a generational decision. This is an impactful decision. And when the community asks us to pause at no risk to the process other than to defer it to a future meeting where we can have a thorough community consultation, and I will admit I'm remiss that when that was asked earlier on in this conversation, I did not support that request. So I'm asking council now for us to pause, defer the file until all these other moving parts can line up in sequence, and we can discuss the asset management plan, do more thorough education with the community, and above all, engage in that meaningful conversation that the public is asking us to undertake. Thank you very much, Mayor Cleveland and council.
This time I'll open up any questions. Based on the motion, by all means, Councillor Burger.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, is it just questions or can I make a bit of a statement? Thank you very much. I just spent, as we all have, about 90 minutes listening to some very insightful presentations. And I think that there are a couple of things that need to be said so that you have the other side of it. Council has a right, a statutory right, I think I can put it that way, to study the best use of this land. And we all will have to give that a great deal amount of thought. But you have to understand basically that it falls upon us to look at that in a very close way. Let's not forget the proximity of what might be built on this particular piece of land to the downtown core, to people who are able to shop by walking down to King Street, and not just the summer, but through the winter also when things slow down quite a bit. So I ask you to remember that all of us will be, on council, will also be thinking of that particular side of it. And the third thing, initially, I had several meetings with the Legion people, and they have also put forward a desire potentially for this piece of property, and that too has to be looked at, I think, as part of our ruminations, if I can use that word, as we look at what we may do with this, and when we think about the best use of this particular land. So I just wanted to make that statement, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Noted. Any other questions or comments at this time? Okay. I guess my only question is, Deputy Mayor, believe that we always need to take time to pause and think about things. And this is a process, as you said, it's been undergoing for many years. So the questions, I guess, don't need to be answered, but just from a hypothetical situation. Knowing that approximately 50% of Cobourg remains undeveloped and can be purchased at a much lower price. Knowing that every $300,000 added to our budget increases the taxes of every residential household by 1%. Knowing that the previous term of this council, which 4 members still remain, bought this to protect the boardwalk and sell off, knowing the financial situation of the town, knowing what this council knows from a November 26th closed session budget meeting that we were all made aware of, the financials, and knowing that at present between 6 and 7 buses of workers are shipped from as far as Burlington, Mississauga, and Brampton to work in our community as there is no housing available. I'm curious as to your want to pause knowing all that.
This is not housing for workers.
Fair points, Mayor Cleveland, and thank you. I definitely want to always err on hypotheticals. However, you stated some well-known data points, and I think that's exactly, we all know this. When I'm hearing from our community who is busy and they live their lives and they elect their council, and what I'm hearing first and foremost, and I think that's why, well, I know that's why I chose the option of deferral. There's no risk to us in defer. What I'm hearing a lot from the correspondence is we would like to know all this information, and that's why I'm using that term sequence. But Mr. Mayor, to address your points, I think there's other, for the amount of energy that we're putting into this site, and it's not fair to compare it to the tannery, so I want to be very clear on that. It's an apple and an orange. But for the amount of energy that we put into one site, we have other municipal owned lands that we can continue to try to activate. I applaud staff last year. We tried to pursue money to support the activation of some elements of tannery, and we continue to do so. We have, to Councillor Barber's point about intensification and fill the downtown core, we know that we have some active files right next door, up on George Street, that are long pauses and take a long time. So I don't think this is a long pause. I think this is a deferral, knowing that in the next few months we have asset management plan coming forward. We're having some financial conversations. We have the task force coming back forward, the Parks Master Plan later on. I would look to staff in that community consultation process to also make recommendations about how we can tell that story. And clearly we have a lot of stuff documented, but we just have to get it back out there into the community domain. So I would like to reframe my own wording of pause to, that's the intent of the deferral, is to line it up with, and I know in speaking with staff and clarifying some things with members of the community, a lot of the correspondence, in my opinion, links to the declaration of surplus lands, which is part of the process that at a future council meeting we will have to consider that analysis, and it's within our right, it's within our statutory right to have the conversation about municipal owned lands and to rezone that. But given that there's even confusion due through, the bureaucratic process of council, what fits into the rezoning bucket, what fits into the surplus lands bucket, what fits into the financial bucket. So we have to educate. This is a jewel piece of, you said yourself, Mr. Mayor, I mean, my kids love running up to you when they see you playing Frisbee at the park. So, we all enjoy that. So, let's have that conversation. Let's put the story in sequence. Let's not take a whack-a-mole approach to we all made a commitment when we approved our strategic plan. We have competing priorities, moving parts, and I personally can't take a whack-a-mole decision to this when I know that there's peripheral and moving parts and other council directives that have been made that are coming back forward. And I would just like to see, as my son would say, Mama, just put all the Lego pieces in a row for me. And I just need all of those Lego pieces put into a row for me.
Noted. By all means, Councilor Burkett.
Thank you, Worship. I think to the Deputy's Mayor point, it's sometimes good to have a pause, and you're you're absolutely right with the apple and orange, two different scenarios. That tannery property, it was actually the RFP to do the planning document on that. I sat on the planning committee as the council coordinator when that was, and that was between the 2016 and the 2018 term. It takes that long to come up with a thorough plan and kind of think this process through sometimes. I know it's slow, but it's not like the land's going anywhere. So to take a pause to look at what we're going to do long term with a gem of a property, as it has been stated, I think is no problem. And there is lots of development going on in other areas of town, and I am pro development. I'm just, I think this is a thing where we've got the public's input as far as, people coming forward and opposed to this. I think we need to further have that conversation, and I think this kind of does it. I think it would also be in our best interest to figure out if, yes, we're gonna keep this as potential parkland, how is that funded? And I think that has to be part of that conversation, a respectful conversation, and I believe the staff can at least provide us those, that information, so we have the facts in front of us to move forward with what that is. Because quite honestly, that's where my head's at right now, is why aren't we keeping this parkland? Why aren't we focusing on the finishing a project like the tannery land before we move on to this? Because it's not going anywhere.
Mr. Burkhardt, fair points. It is what it is. By all means, Councillor Darling, and then Councillor Durham.
Yes, I'm still considering the amendment by the deputy mayor, but the way the conversation's leading, if we had the action recommended as it sits in our agenda, and it didn't pass, it got voted down, we would be right back to square one. So I just wanted to bring that point up, that if this motion as it printed in the agenda did get voted on and failed to move forward, we would be right back in doing everything that's in the deputy's amendment.
Well, I was gonna actually suggest that it wouldn't, because based on previous council direction, should the zoning not pass, the next step would be heading towards sale.
Yeah,
So
we would
even
have
if
to,
it's
we
not
would have to
zoned.
declare the land surplus,
Correct.
which would be next step, would have public input.
Noted.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bureau?
Thank you. At the beginning, that's exactly what, and I want to say thank you to all the residents who reached out, wrote letters, and engaged with us. To me, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing community engagement on something so passionate than Durham, and to me, I think it's amazing. We were part of the council that last term that did do this and wanted to sever it and sell it. But what I've noticed on my time on council is the ripple effects that we have. Decisions that we made last term, right at the beginning, has a ripple effect all the way through. And witnessing that firsthand and seeing that, the effects that it has, this pause, I believe, is one of the smartest decisions to be made in order to get all our facts together and as a community figure out what we want to do. And you're right, the land is, green space doesn't grow. We only take it away. So why would we rush to do that right now? So to me, I'm not saying that in the future it won't happen. I'm not saying, but I want everybody to have an educated decision to help us make our decisions. And I think that's what council's all about. And so to me, I will be supporting this motion because there is no rush.
Noted, and I'm glad you brought up the fact of the ripple effect. I'm looking forward to furthering that conversation when we start looking at the fiscal management and the reserve situation of our community and the financial situation. So the ripple effect of previous decisions does continue on to today, and we're gonna be seeing that drastically. By all means, Councillor McDonald.
Just a simple statement. I support the amendment as it's proposed. I feel that council has a duty to listen to all voices and to make sure that the information before us is accurate. And so, hence, I will support the amendment as it's on the floor.
Noted. So I see there's no further comments or questions. We'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend? So moved. We'll move on now to 4.2. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Now we move the amended motion to the original motion. Assuming there's no more further questions or concerns, as it's been an amended motion. All in favor? By all means, Councilor Tom.
I think I would propose to make the amendment the main motion and to remove I think I'll need to look at the clerk for this, but my suggestion would be that it's premature to consider a rezoning at this time. And
Sorry, just to be clear, Councilor Baton, there is now a move. We amended the motion, now that's become the full motion. So you
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but whoa.
Oh,
Yeah, so we've already got the motion to amend has now become the main motion.
thank you. Thank you
we're
for
now
that
going-
clarification. I'm just catching up with you.
Not a problem,
Thank
Councilor.
you.
So at this time, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? So moved. We'll move on to item 4.2 at this time, and that's going to be, of course.
Did it pass? Sorry, Lucas.
Yes.
Yes. So, now